All right, so the article that I use is called Gender Differences in the Consistency of Middle School Students' Interest in Engineering and Science Careers. It's from the Journal of Pre-College Engineering Education Research and was published in 2014. So this presentation will explore the findings of a study on gender differences in the consistency of middle school's interest in engineering and science careers. It examined survey responses from 7th, 8th, and 9th graders. So the survey was a 5-year longitudinal study on science aspirations and engagement. They took data from surveys from 9,000 10 to 14-year-olds and their parents to get their results. So students had to complete a 10-page Is Science Me survey in the fall of 7th grade, fall of 8th grade, and then again in the spring of 9th grade. And that's sort of where these results stem from. Really understanding these differences is important for increasing diversity in our STEM field. I kind of have throughout the presentation some quotes that sort of highlighted some things that I found especially interesting. So students who are more aware of engineering typically have a parent, relative, or family friend who was or is an engineer. And this was from a 2008 report by the National Academy of Engineering. However, I think this just highlights the importance of connecting students with people in an engineering or science field. And I think we'll kind of see as we continue to go, especially females. If this is one of the biggest indicators for students, making sure that they have a connection would be great. I'll do a synopsis of the article, how I would use it to inform my understanding, and how I would use it to introduce or teach STEM concepts in my area. All right, so it looks at gender differences. It followed 482 students over the course of 3 years in grade 7th, 8th, and 9th. It really looks at consistency in career interests and preference for certain career aspects. And those career aspects are sort of embedded within science or engineering careers. Noting the gender differences for both, it highlights some ways that we can increase female interest in those fields. Right. So one of our findings was that males were more likely than females to be interested in designing, inventing, or developing things. And I think that this really could stem back to how children play in early years. This seems to be kind of males playing with Legos and building, and just some of those early things that they are exposed to that maybe help them develop some of these interests. Let's see here. Informing understanding. So how does this article inform my understanding of engineering technologies design practices in iSTEM environments? So a couple of things. One thing, like I just mentioned with that last quote, is that early exposure. So both genders need early exposure to science and engineering. So again, I think this shows how we need to integrate those STEM programs starting in pre-K or even earlier if families are willing to. And then it needs to be continuous throughout elementary school. We find in a lot of schools the focus has shifted to tested subject matters like reading and math, and sometimes science is left behind. So this really shows the importance of keeping STEM programs there. Awareness for both genders, one of the contributing factors was whether or not they knew an engineer. So that goes back to one of my original quotes. And again, just providing some great opportunities for schools to create partnerships, mentors with engineers, scientists, or mathematicians in the community. I think specifically of my school, we have a lot of programs like Big Brother, Big Sister, And I think that would be a great way to match students with an engineer or a scientist or a mathematician. Okay. And then I think a lot of it is just around reframing engineering. So some of it is based on how it's presented. So females are particularly drawn to engineering with messages of engineering makes a world of difference and engineering is essential to our health, happiness, and safety. So I think females really see the benefit in engineering as a real world thing. So solving real world problems, looking at challenges or things that they really care about. So some of that is really just about how we frame engineering. It's not just the building or the super mathematical science thinking. There's sort of a lot more that goes into it. Okay. In 2012, females made up only 13% of the engineering workforce. This was from the National Science Board in 2012. And again, I think that this just highlights the need for encouraging female participation in engineering. These statistics are obviously dated, so I would be curious to see how they have changed in the 10, 15 years since then. If we have taken the advice from this article to make some improvements, or if we have kind of remained stagnant with our female growth in engineering. All right. Um, Again, this kind of comes back to that reframing engineering. So females are as interested as males in jobs in which they can improve others' health or the environment, analyze data, and have their work reviewed by others. So again, I think it just comes back to females really wanting to see the need or seeing the real world connections in their work. Okay. Kind of how I would introduce or teach it. So based on my reading, experience, and article, how would I introduce or teach engineering or technology design at the K-12 level? So I think that this article really talks about starting early. And so I think I currently am in a middle school, but where I do have some influence is in my own children's education, particularly being a member of their school board. So really just pushing for more opportunities for STEM education in their schools. Our local library is working on creating STEM kits for families to take home. So I think that really helps kind of introduce engineering to all students, male and female, at an earlier age. Improve the definition of engineering. Again, I think that this could be done at a middle school level, just making sure to talk more about what engineering includes. I particularly teach a college and career education class, so really just highlighting the different jobs in engineering and sort of increasing the definition of what that looks like. Connecting with professionals. Again, I had mentioned that our school partners with places like Big Brothers Big Sisters. Again, in my college and career class, that could be inviting professionals into the classroom just to talk about what they do. Using real world examples, which is part of what we're doing with this class. The lesson plan that I'm hoping to kind of create and implement. And then just provide opportunities during school and after school. And again, I see that sort of in my own space as a teacher, but also as a parent, how I could really push for some of those programmings. The gender difference may also reflect gendered views of many families about what engineer entails and who should become an engineer. Again, I think that goes back to my first quote.